Welcome to Mind Shift Power Podcast, a show for teenagers and the adults who work with them, where we have raw and honest conversations. I'm your host, Fatima Bey, the Mind Shifter. Hello and welcome. Today we have with us Jessica Rossler. She is a woman that lives in Schenectady, New York. And this episode is called Damaged because she's going to talk about struggling through trauma as a teen and ending up as an accomplished adult. And some people think that they are damaged because they are like she was. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. So, Jessica, tell us how you grew up and what your teens were like for you.
Well, I grew up in what I like to call a very dysfunctional family. And in that, I mean, we weren't your typical normal, like, happy-go-lucky family. We were, very, everybody did what they wanted kind of thing. My parents constantly fought, and till this day, they still do. And, all of us kids growing up each had our issues as well with school and life. My, my parents weren't all that well off, and neither were we. We were like lower middle class. We were considered lower middle class family. And, my mom and my father worked part-time, and they still continued throughout my teen years and most of my adult life to work part-time. They didn't have enough time for a lot of us. So when one of us had an accomplishment that we had wanted to tell them about, it was overshadowed by another sibling having an issue. So, none of that was taken into account. And, in return, for me, I felt like they didn't care. So, I would do what I wanted, just like my siblings. They would do what they wanted. They would go out, hang out with friends till they wanted. And, my parents were, they tried to discipline, but it was more or less like, my dad, he would be like this burly, like, oh, you have to come home at a specific time and do this and that. But he wouldn't stick to it. And my mom was definitely not the disciplinarian in the family. She was more, oh, well, you should let them do what they want. And it's like, to me, it was just, that's what I grew up with. So that's what I was used to. And, it was very much like that in my teen years as well, where it was just like, all right, well, if you don't care what I do, I'm just going to do this, 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 and this. And, I went out and hung out with friends. And when I wasn't hanging out with friends, I was told, oh, well, you got to watch your siblings because, your mother's working tonight. And my mom had to pick up 2 jobs just to make ends meet with, 8 kids. And, we barely had enough money for bills. And my mother would put away so much to pay the bills. So, sometimes it came down to eating or paying the bills. So, she chose to have us kids eat as opposed to paying a bill. So there would be times when we wouldn't have electricity. There would be times when we wouldn't have Christmas. There were times when we had to borrow money from my grandparents. In terms of cars too, as well, my grandmother would give us her cars. We had hand-me-down clothes. So it was a very much, roller coaster of a ride in my family, in that sense. And it was just, everybody was all over the place. Life for me as a teenager was pretty much the same. Elementary school was the same way. My parents were fighting constantly. I ended up being labeled in elementary school and all throughout my life with a learning disability. And
Okay.
the school had said, well, there's nothing much else that we could do for your daughter. And so they stuck me in special education classes. And at that point I was too young to have a voice and to figure out, hey, look, this is not who I am. And I shouldn't be labeled as such because you know I sucked at math. Yeah, like, people suck at math. That's just it's just something that some people aren't good at. And but you know otherwise it was, like I said, very much the same as that. And throughout school it was being put in special education classes after special education classes. And then I got into high school as I started getting to be in my teen years, and that started to start weighing on me some more, because it was even tougher in high school. When I was in high school, the special education committee had tons of meetings on me and about me.
Mm,
And
mm,
my mom was with me for like one or two of those. But other than that, it was me. And I had to find my voice, and I had to figure out what was best for me at that point. And even though I raised my concerns about being in special education, I felt like they were, not heard, because you know, I was a teenager. So I felt like they didn't care what I thought. They were just like, oh, this is, just somebody we can get money off of. So in that instance, when I felt like I wasn't being heard, or, seen rather, I felt like a failure. And I felt like
mhm,
nobody cared what I thought. Nobody
mhm,
cared what I said because I was a teenager. And, you know, they were the adults, and I was supposed to listen to them, and I was supposed to do what they wanted me to do. So I was kept in this program, and I felt like an utter failure. I felt horrible. I felt lost. I felt defeated. And you know, it was an awful thing for me as a teenager to have to deal with, among other things that, teenagers deal with on a daily basis. Um, and, that was like that throughout my whole high school career. I didn't graduate high school until the age of 19 because I ended up failing kindergarten because of the fact that the teachers again said, well, she doesn't know how to do this. She's not ready. So I just, you know, me being me, I felt like a failure. I felt like, I didn't fit in anywhere. And, I felt like nobody would accept me or take me seriously. And I had a lot of anger. I
mhm.
had a lot of frustration, hurt. You know, I didn't want to finish high school. I really wanted to just discontinue and
Did you
drop out.
have did you have a lot of friends?
So I had groups of friends. We had in in my high school there were your usual jocks and nerds and
Mhm.
um, so on and so forth. And I fell in between like the nerds and the outcasts, and I had a lot of those types of friends come in and out of my circle a lot, and that helps some. And I felt like they understood who I was, and they listened to me, and took my complaints, my thoughts very seriously. And at that point in their lives too, some of them were also in special education, so some of
Mhm.
them knew the ins and outs of it like I did. And
Okay.
some of them had difficulties with other things in their lives as well that they were in special education for. But for me, I went to what they called the resource room at that time, and I was fed answers by an aide. So that essentially did not help me at all.
Mm.
And yeah, it did not help me learn anything. It did not help me figure out anything. It just made matters worse for me, because even the aides would look at me and they would get frustrated with me, because if there was something that I didn't understand very quickly, they would sit there and look at me strange, and they would just give up and then just give me the answers. Because for me, it takes me a little while to understand something, and sometimes I have to have it repeated multiple times, but I'll get it. It's not like I won't. It's just it takes me a bit to get it. And growing up, I thought I was stupid. I felt stupid. I felt like an utter failure. I felt like everybody and everything was against me because of that fact. I felt ashamed that I was in special education. And it was honestly, when I look back, it was honestly some of the worst, but yet profound impacts of my life that I've experienced,
Profound how?
because it has shown that just because I, I thought I was a failure, I thought I couldn't do things that other people in regular classes were doing. Um, you know, I was horrified with myself. I was ashamed of myself. I was embarrassed. And, looking back, nowadays, looking back as an adult, I think that that had a profound impact on me in, the sense that I came a lot farther than I thought I would in
Mm.
life.
And that's what I want us to really talk about. I know that there are I don't even know. I don't even know if thousands is enough, maybe millions of young women out there who are just like you, who feel the same way about themselves right now as you felt. They feel stupid. They don't come from the greatest of environments when it comes to family. They feel they're totally unsupported by the people around them. Um, and just how can you feel hopeful in a situation like that? So I want to talk a little bit about, you know, where you are now. So what are you doing now?
So, right now, I actually work at a local community college, and I actually work with my daughter. So, you know, I actually have my daughter to thank for being, being as gracious as she is and as understanding as she is, she's actually helped me to become the person I am today, and shaped me to be a better person. And um, you know, without her resilience and her thoughtfulness and her dedication to everything that she does, and she's my cheering section. Without her, I think that I would not be the person that I am today. I think if I hadn't had her, that I would be in a very dark place. I would be very, very distraught. I would be a mess.
What else
And
has helped?
the fact that I can finally say that, just because I've had these, these types of setbacks in my life, it doesn't mean that I'm still that person, and it doesn't mean that I can't do the things that I set out to do and the goals that I have.
Hmm.
I have all this resilience, and I have so many dreams, so many goals that I want to attain in my life. And, you know, looking back, I think that without having all of these things that happened to me, without that, I think that, I wouldn't be here in this position.
Now, you said you have goals and dreams you're trying to work on and trying to attain. What are some of the goals that you well, first of all, yeah, what are some of the goals that you have already attained?
Some of the goals that I have already accomplished, I actually got an associate's degree.
Woohoo.
So, suck it, high school guidance counselor who said that I would never amount to anything. I would never be able to do math or science. I
I
had,
can't believe some idiot said that to you.
yes,
I'm sorry, but whoever that
she,
is, you're an idiot. Go ahead.
she said, she literally said to me in my 11th, yeah, my junior year of high school and then my senior year of high school. She told me every time I went into her office, when I was asking her, we went over like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? All that
Hmm.
stuff that high school guidance counselors usually ask. I had said I wanted to be a pediatric nurse or I wanted to do something in astronomy. She literally looked me in the face and said, well, both of those have math involved, right? Like really snotty, like attitude. And I said, yeah. And she said, and for pediatric nursing, that they don't make a lot of money, right? And I'm like, wow,
Yuck.
like, did she just say that?
That woman need to be smacked upside the head and gotten out of her job. But anyway,
So needless to say, I left her office defeated and in tears
I'm sorry.
because I thought, all right, that's it. I'm never going to be able to do anything with my life. And, there was a time when I didn't go to college, but I, I, you know, I
And you're
was
still in school right now.
right. Yes, I am still in school right now. I am working on a master's degree. My
That's freaking
master's in
awesome.
science degree in biodiversity conservation and policy. And I am just, I'm killing some of the goals that I had set for myself. And, I've gone above and beyond even the ones that I thought I could never do. Um,
So you
so,
went from feeling like nothing, feeling stupid, abnormal, like you couldn't accomplish anything. All that other stuff was for normal people, not you, right?
yes,
That's how you felt
exactly.
about yourself. I used to feel that way
Exactly.
about myself when I was younger too, so I understand. I really, really understand it. But you went from there to you're working on your master's now. Well, now let's go back to 17-year-old Jessica, would 17-year-old Jessica have believed that she would one day be working on a master's degree?
Absolutely not. 17-year-old me was very moody, very, you know, very defeated, very down,
Mhm,
very, very depressed.
mhm.
Because, 17-year-old me was like, I'm never going to be able to do anything. And I would be in my room every single night with my lights off, and I would look outside and I would start praying. I would start praying for the day and the time that, I would be able to be normal. I would be able to have a normal family, a normal life, a normal situation. I would be able to have a diploma out of high school like everybody else. But, I got put in special education, and the IEP diploma that I had basically said, no, you have to stay in this program until you're 19 years old. So it was it was debilitating for me. And
I want to chime in right there because and talk to the audience for a second. If you're an adult who's working in a school system or an education system of any kind, in any capacity, a counselor, whatever you're doing, and you're involved in kids' lives like this, I know that there are a lot of other Jessicas out there who have been held back in life for a lot of reasons, but one of those reasons is um, being labeled with special ed when it may or may not have been necessary. There's so many people, and I have personally seen it, and it makes me very angry when people get labeled that and they don't need it. Or when they get labeled that and just treated like, well, you have a maximum capacity of this little bit and that's it, and you're too stupid for the rest. And you may not use those words directly, but there's so many other ways you can actually say that to people, and it does so much damage. Please don't do that. Give people hope. Don't take away what little hope they have, because you don't know what kind of effects it's going to have on them. There are people in her situations that commit suicide because they feel like they can't do anything. That's real. And it just really angers me when I hear these stories and I know that they were avoidable. And I know that they were avoidable if we just support people around us, but give them the right kind of support. And if you are out there and you feel like you're stupid and maybe you are in special ed and maybe you don't get it as quick as the rest of us, it doesn't mean that you can't do what the rest of us does. It might mean you have to go another way around it, but you can still do everything that the rest of us can do. That's my little speech. So I just had to say all that because I just think it's so important. Um, so I also want to talk about a part of has also helped you a lot, in the conversations that we've had off the air. You've gone to therapy, correct?
mhm,
And
yes,
that made a major difference in your life?
yes, it has.
Talk about that a little bit.
So when I originally started going, I started talking about one thing, and then I was like, well, I've got a bunch of other things that are going on, and I want to talk about my life and what happened to me in my childhood, what happened to me as a teenager. And so I talked in therapy about that. I spend about 60 minutes every week in therapy, just talking about everything that's gone
Mhm.
on. And that's really helped. And I wish more people would take advantage of that, because it is definitely helpful.
I agree. I think therapy, I preach it all the time. I think therapy is important. I think there's different types of therapy that work for different types of people, and
Hmm.
conventional therapy does not work for everyone. I mean, and I know therapists, I will tell you right now, it does not work for everyone, but it does work for a lot of people. And if you don't like conventional therapy, there are other ways you can go about it, but we all need therapy because we're humans. And sometimes it's just a matter of having somebody to bounce your thoughts off of to help you, declutter your brain. Um, so what I'm hearing from you, and what I want to point out to the audience is that you went from you went from there to here. You went from a place of feeling no hope, no confidence, very low self esteem. The biggest thing is no support because there's nobody there to combat those negative thoughts that you were having about yourself, correct?
Right. Yes.
So when you have nobody to combat that, you're just gonna, I mean, it's natural to kind of take that on and believe the garbage that people are telling you, you know.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, I know people out there that have family members that do that to them, put them down the first second they can. You're too stupid. Don't try this. And it's like, I want to drop kick them in the forehead. That's illegal, so I don't, but I really want to because I understand the damage that it does to their psyche. And we all operate out of that psyche. So it matters. You know, your mindset is everything. So, what advice do you have for someone in their teens listening right now who feels just the way you did, who is from a non supportive family, feeling hopeless, lost, and stupid?
Find your
What?
voice. Find
Okay.
your voice. Make sure you find that voice. Make sure you don't lose it. Make sure you don't give up hope because, you know, it might seem like it's a long road to get from point A to point B, but you'll get there. You will. And you'll look back on those moments, and in those moments, and you'll say, wow, I had, all this resilience, and I'm not that same person. I am
Mhm.
a better version of myself.
That's awesome. Now, I have one more question for you. For the people listening who have people like you around them, and really, this actually really applies to more than just teenagers, but who are feeling the way you felt about yourself, what would have made a difference for you back then?
For more people to listen, more people to take me seriously, more
Mm,
more people to let me talk, let me speak, hear what I have to say, and just be honest with me, and don't sugarcoat things, you know, because a lot of times staff do that in
yeah,
schools, and
yeah.
just be honest and tell me flat out, like, why I'm labeled that. What makes me that way to you or to that school system or to whomever. Um, and I wish they were honest more with me and not secretive in their conversations about me. And I wish that, again, they listened to me because I tried to speak about it, and I was brushed off because I didn't matter. And the school system that I went to and went through, they didn't care about anybody really.
Well, I will
So
say you do matter, and you're mattering right now because I am positive that you are inspiring some young girl out there right now who is where you were. I really believe that. And for what she was just talking about, for those around someone like her, don't just slough off a teenager like like they don't matter, like their feelings don't matter, and just like, oh, you're just being a dumb teenager, and ignore it, because that does more damage than you can even see. You know, sometimes we do that as adults and don't realize the harm that that actually does. Number one, for our relationship with that child, but number two, for their self-esteem and self-worth. Or you don't know what they're thinking. You may be affecting their future by saying stupid little statements, you know, and brushing off what's important to them. um, I wanted to say that to the audience. Well, Jessica, I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come on here and being willing to be vulnerable, um, and tell your story. And I know that your story is more average than you think, and you were never abnormal. I just wanted to say that too. You were never abnormal.
thank you.
You just didn't fit into the stupid little conventional box that our system wants to put people in, which by the way
Right.
only about maybe 30% of the people actually fit in properly. but that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother episode. But you were never abnormal. You're not now the person that I met when the day I met you is I never would have known that that was your backstory because
Yep.
that's not who I see now, and that's not who you are now. And I'm really glad that you're able to get out of it. And again, this is one of those heartfelt, episodes for me because I really want this message to get out to more young women who are like you were and know that there is hope for you because there was hope for Jessica.
Yep. Yes. You know, I just I wanna just hug everybody that, you know,
Me too, but we can't do it
yeah,
virtually. They haven't come up with
right,
that science yet.
right.
Well, thank you, Jessica, for being on.
Thank you for having me.
And now for a mind shifting moment. If you're listening right now and you are where Jessica was, you feel stupid, you feel abnormal, you feel hopeless about your future because of the way you've grown up. I want you to know you're not a failure. There is hope for your future, just like there was hope for Jessica. She's not special. Anything that she did, you can do too. I want you to know if you don't have support around you, you may have to be the one that advocates for yourself. Don't believe the hype that you can only accomplish a certain amount. That is never true. You just got to find a way around it. I hope that you were able to listen today and that you were able to get hope for yourself and your own future. It is possible because it was possible for her. Thank you for listening to Mindshift Power Podcast. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel at The Mindshifter. If you have any comments, topic suggestions, or would like to be a guest on the show, please visit fatimabay.com/podcast. Remember, there's power in shifting your thinking. Tune in for next week.